स्वस्ति श्री गणेशाय नमः साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्व प्रचोदयात्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं कर्वावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय। ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ पूर्णमदा पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम्। शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Om Shri Sai Ram. Good evening and welcome to the day of celebration, the final day of our Parayanam. And I want to thank Baba for this inspiration and all the masters who've been guiding us throughout to make it as an experiential journey. And I want to thank all of you for being here for this gathering of open hearts that came together and created this event and this holy Parayanam. And as we continued the journey over these 40 days, it picked up its own intensity and everybody started to get more and more involved in it. Some were there throughout, some came in between and left, some kept coming in and going out according to their own alignment to the energy and according to what they were seeking. So all is perfect, all is absolutely as it must be. And that actually is the journey that we have done in these 40 days to come to this point where we are experiencing that everything is as is meant to be. In whatever state it is, you call it imperfection, you call it madness, you call it chaos. It is how the world is at this point of time, because that is how it is meant to be at this time. And what we have experienced in these days is to know that the outer world is a mere projection, is a mere play of all the past karmas, and there is somewhere a dance of the consciousness going on, and we keep enjoying and suffering the world based on our own perceptions and how we see the world through our mind. So we have our eyes, but eyes only physically see the objects. It's actually the mind which controls what we see, how we perceive it, and what we make out of it. And so therefore, it's a make-believe world. All of us participate in the same world, and yet our worldviews are very different because we've been looking at the world from our own filters based on our experiences, our vasanas, our prarabdhas, our gunas. And in this journey, we realize that actually we are not the mind, we are not the body, but we are that consciousness which is within us, which is present everywhere, and which is known by many names. One of them is called God, Brahman, Atman, self, consciousness, and maybe a lot more. And we have a freedom to call it whatever we want to, because the idea was to experience it. Names can be misleading and appearances can be misleading, but the experience is our very own. And our ability to see through the difference between the experiences of the mind and the experiences of the consciousness or the heart, clearly give us the discrimination to be able to differentiate and to be able to remain in the awareness of that consciousness. In the Vedas and the Upanishads, there are 4 mahavakyas, or the 4 exhortations that the Upanishads talk about when they describe the self. And the first one is, it says Pragyanam Brahma. What it really means is that consciousness is Brahman. Pragyanam Brahma means that consciousness, what we have been talking of over this entire journey, the Upanishads declare that that is Brahman. At another place, they say, Aham Atma Brahma, that this Atma, which is inside of me as the individual entity, that also is Brahman, right? So the consciousness is Brahman, which is all pervading. The Atman, which resides in the individual, that also is Brahman. And then they say, therefore, Tattvam Asi. That means the oneness principle, that thou art that, which means you and I are one. That means that the same consciousness which is inside of me is also inside of you, and therefore we are one, because there is the same consciousness inside each one of us. And these are the instructive 3 statements which actually clarify that what we call as God, what we call as consciousness, what we call as Brahman, and what we call as Atman are one and the same, and that the same consciousness is inside all of us. And therefore, we are one. And having known that, we do our journey in life so that we can discover it ourselves and experience it firsthand, to gain direct experience or prataksha praman that actually this is the truth. As we have been doing in this Parayanam, and when we came to the state of beingness, we suddenly started to experience the symptoms and signs and the experiences each one of us started to have. We realized that this is the consciousness, and how sweet is the experience of this consciousness, and what kind of a stillness we go into when we experience that consciousness, and how our life becomes a song of love, and that love which flows from us, that love which is received by everybody around us, not just human beings, but all the beings, including animals and plants, because all living beings operate out of the consciousness of love, and they have the ability to receive and ability to give love, because that is the basic energy. So therefore, to all the things that we've spoken about, Brahman, Atman, God, consciousness, you can add love to it, because it all interacts with each one of us. This Brahman, this God, this Guru, this inner Guru, it relates to us as love. We experience the presence as love. That love which is selfless, that love which flows, that love which makes us do things because we know we must do them. That love which transcends all the notions and the boundaries set up by the mind. It breaks all the matrices that we were stuck in our life, either by compulsion or by circumstances or by choice. And we realize that everything in our life has been created by our mind, and we had always been prisoners of that. But when this love starts to flow, and when this love prompts us to do things, and when we do them, we instantly know that we have moved beyond. We've left that world of mind. The mind will continue to do its work. Without mind, we cannot exist. But the steering wheel of our life moves from the mind to the consciousness, and an inner language and an inner dialogue starts for all of us. And this inner dialogue comes to us in the form of intuition. We get an intuitive ability. We are just prompted on certain things, and we wonder at the synchronicity that starts appearing. Synchronicity is a way of the consciousness validating that it is no coincidence. Everything is happening as per a higher plan, as per the plan of the consciousness, and things start to flow. And whenever the flow is not there, you know that the consciousness is trying to tell you that we are now operating out of the mind. In another way, the consciousness, and we had some beautiful experiences during our discussions, that the consciousness also speaks to us. It uses dreams also to communicate sometimes things that we need to do or we need to take note of. And we clearly know that these dreams are either messages of consciousness or they are just the clearing out of the subconscious. And we are able to differentiate because the consciousness is observer of these dreams. And the consciousness instantly knows what this dream is about. And as this consciousness is not attached to the world in the waking state, it is also not attached to the observations of the dreams. It sees them as a communication. It receives the communication. It does what it needs to do, but does not build any attachment, because both the waking state and the dream state is both a illusion. It's part of the grand Maya. It's part of the grand play. The other way we have been experiencing during our Parayanam, that the consciousness shows its presence through energetic experiences, because ultimately it's an energy. And most of us by now have had at least one, or some are remaining in the state of that experience most of the time. But we now identify the presence of that consciousness as an energetic being or as an energetic presence, and we are able to identify how it feels, what it is like. We can't see it. Like we say, we can't see God. We cannot see electricity, but we can see electricity through the bulb and the tube and the fan that works. So we can feel that the electricity is there through all these various equipments. In the same way, we are able to experience the presence of consciousness through these multiple ways. And this gives us an experience of a stillness which makes us feel connected all the time to the consciousness, or we are constantly aware of this consciousness. Baba used to call this as constant integrated awareness. So consciousness is also a constant integrated awareness, and this awareness makes us flow through life. We experience the love as a gentle sweetness in our heart, and that gives us a feeling of being enthusiastic towards life, because we start separating from the mind and the body. The joy in our hearts does not diminish, even if there are challenges happening to us in the body, or even if the mind is trying to distract us. Most of us during this period went through a lot of clearing. Some experienced fever, some experienced back problems, and each one of us have gone through a rough patch during this 40 days. But yet, whatever happened to the body, whatever experiences we had, but the awareness of that presence or the joy in the heart never diminished. And we held on, and we knew how to differentiate and see the body for what it is, and to be able to separate these two very, very clearly. So in the end, just to say that how do we identify, how do we know that we are operating out of our consciousness? When we start to experience the flow, when we experience the flow of love from us, when we start interacting with people out of love, when our strong reactions melt away and we become equal-minded, or equanimity becomes our hallmark as we deal with situations in life and people, our awareness expands so much that we are able to do even the smallest jobs perfectly. And life becomes a flow of what we call as saral and sahaj. And everything becomes very simple, uncomplicated, natural, and spontaneous. And the resultant experience is of deep peace, Shanti, and we feel contented, Santosh. Remember the 4 gates that Vasishtha Yoga has said, which are like the four sentinels guarding the world of self-realization. It had said that these four are Satsanga, Vichara, which is contemplation or manana, Shanti, and Santosh. So we've spoken about all of them. We've done enough on manana. We've been doing this Satsanga now, and what we experience is contentment and peace. So from all sides, we've tried to conclude this feeling of Aham Brahmasmi, that I am that Brahma. And otherwise, these vakyas or these mahavakyas, these statements at a higher level are very difficult to understand. But we have put them down into very clear, simple indicators to which we can now relate. And know that when you are not experiencing it, know instantly that your mind is hijacking you or is diverting you somewhere. So that then you can instantly, because remember, we have said awareness is like a torch. It will no longer let you forget it. It's suddenly and instantly gets switched on when there is darkness. What is a darkness? Darkness of thoughts and desires that the mind pulls us into. So as we start to fall for it, we suddenly realize. As anger starts to come, we suddenly realize something is brewing up, right? We start to feel a little jealous, suddenly the awareness will start coming, right? When we are trying to get attached to someone or something, suddenly the awareness will come and tell you, oh, you're getting attached to this, right? So, and then with constant abhyasa, this practice of remaining in this awareness, a day comes when we are always in this state. When no matter what happens, this state does not get perturbed. You do not feel upset. You do not lose it. And that is when we truly become what is called as Jivan Muktas, or liberated beings, or yogis who have mastered this art of being equanimous in the chaotic world that surrounds us, and therefore our work really starts then. So while we say that self-realization or experiencing this Brahman is actually the goal of our life, I actually would like to tell you at the conclusion that it's a hoax, because actually that is when the work really starts, because that is when finally we start living who we truly are. And when you, for the joy for which you have yearned all through, and you ran after one guru after another guru, and you've done almost everything that you could think of, finally when you experience it, finally when you come into that state of joy, that is when the real fun of life starts. And why would you want to let it go? And why would you want to rest? See, the joy is so beautiful that you have to share it with others. It cannot stay within. What you experience, it becomes your bounden duty to share this joy with others. That is what is the nature of this joy. This is what is Ananda. And that comes only once we constantly remain in the presence of our truth. So that's the conclusion of this Parayanam. And as I said, that we are going to have some fun today. But before that, I wanted to make sure that we completely understand the journey that we have made. We started off on day one talking about the 9 steps to divinity. And we said our end aim was to experience that flow of love, which would give us the experience of bliss. That we have done. And we have today recapped once again, summarized, so that it is not left to our imagination what this experience is. We know all the indicators now. We know what it feels. We have felt it ourselves, and we are going to feel it now as well, because that is the grand finale where we will today experience that joy. But before that, 2 things. One is that this journal that you have been maintaining, I hope everybody has maintained, this is going to be your most invaluable asset or your companion for the rest of your life, because in this you have noted down your experiences and your progress of these 40 days. And from time to time, you should keep looking at it to realize how you shifted, how things moved, when did the penny drop, when did that joy started to come, and what were your key learnings. And that's an advantage, because if sometimes we just keep listening and we don't note. Later on, we are not able to relate it. After some time, if you're not practicing it, if we don't remain in the awareness, then this helps us to always come back. So that was point number one. And the other one was that, yes, we are going to have a meditation right now. But remember, after that, I made you all promise yesterday that everyone today is going to share their experience. Experience about what has happened to them, what are they feeling today, what has been their journey. So don't tell me that, you're all blissed out and you can't talk. So if that is the case, we can start sharing now and we can end up with the experience. So you tell me. Both have to happen. So you choose the order.